Hello, I'm Alan. Today if you're drinking along, I'm drinking a white tea. So this is a Moonlight white, but from Yunnan sourcing. This is their organic Moonlight white. If you're considering purchasing this and you don't want to watch all the steeps, go ahead and look for the too long didn't watch in the description. It'll just kind of send you to the end for the overall view. Otherwise, if you have the tea and you want to drink along, go ahead and just keep watching. So this is a very voluminous, very light tea as far as compaction. So I've kind of the look of it. There's buds and a couple of leaves in there. I imagine maybe two-ish leaves or so. And so you've got the fuzziness of the buds, you've got the oxidation of the leaves, which kind of creates this black and white effect, which is kind of interesting and has me intrigued. This is my first Moonlight white, and so this is actually what we drank last week for my little group of just little tea friends that come over. We drink some tea, so we have had this, and this was just kind of a tea that intrigued me, so we went ahead and did this for our white tea as we drink through them all. So anyway, the dry leaves aroma just kind of smells like leaves, to be honest, but then there's also hints of kind of like yeast, like a bread dough, so kind of notes of bread dough in there. So let's get this in the pot and it's gonna go all over the place, but whatever. Kind of cleaned up, get most of it in there. So take my review with a grain of sand or salt or whatever you want to take it with, because this is the first one I've had, so I don't have experience with other Moonlight whites to say if it's a good one or a bad one. I'll just be describing what I experienced drinking it. We can get that out of the way. So the water I'm going to do as hot as I can. I've got it, well, I guess not quite as hot. I can do a couple more degrees, but I'm going to do it at 95 degrees, so pretty hot. Let's get all this ready. I'm going to do just kind of a rinse just to wake it up a little bit, kind of give it a kick start. Not too much water, but just to swirl it around, wake it up, and kind of see what comes out. So I've had it before, but it's been a week, so we'll kind of see what experience I have today. Keep that nice and hot. All right, so there in the aroma, with kind of the rinse being heated up, there's kind of a tart note. There's a tartness to it. There's still some of the bread dough, like a yeast. But the tart and the yeast aren't quite sourdough if you combine them. They're kind of their own unique, like the sourness is almost a fruity sourness. Anyway, okay. Let's do the first steep, and I'm gonna do it for 20 seconds. Leaf to water ratio. I've got 5 grams per 100 milliliters, so I've got a total of 10 grams of leaf in here. And to the neck is 200 milliliters of water. Just let it go for 20 seconds. So it's very thin as far as the pour. It doesn't have the body that a Gyokuro would. Not much different on the aroma. There's just the sour, tart. I don't know if I'm picking up wood per se. Kind of let that drain off a little bit. Keep hot. The color is kind of an amber. It almost matches the color of the handle, maybe towards the bottom part, not quite as dark as the top. But again, this is just the first steep. When I look through it, I'm seeing floaties, the little hairs because of the buds. So there's hairs in there. It's kind of a little golden color in there. Oh, it is hot, so I'm gonna pour high to try to cool it off a little bit. Didn't even think about that when I was pouring it out of here. I'll remember that. Gonna keep the heat in. I'm gonna pour this back and forth just a couple times to cool it so I don't burn my tongue. Alright, so this is the first steep. Cheers. And even though it's the first steep, it's light, but I can get what's starting to build up. There's almost the hint of sliminess, I would say. But just a hint in this first steep, as far as texture-wise. Flavors, the thing that I can closest equate it to would be like a bread dough. There's like an uncooked doughiness to the flavor. Very pleasant, very light. I slurp to kind of help cool it down as well. All right, so let's go for the second steep. I'm gonna just increase 5 seconds for this one. We'll do 25 seconds, same temperature, 95 degrees Celsius. That going. So this is from, this was picked in April 2019. So spring of last year. There we go, 25 seconds. And the cultivar, they said it's a Changye Baihao. Bai, I'm learning, is white. So like Baihao Yin was white hair. So this is Changye, white hair. I'll have to look up what Changye means. So that's the cultivar. And from Mulihe village in Simao, Yunnan, China. Okay. Color-wise, still kind of that amber, in line with the color of this handle here. Still lots of hairs in there. It's a little bit darker. Like if I compare the two, there is some more red, orange, brown coming out. Pour this nice and high. And we'll cool it off a little bit. So I guess with Moonlight White, they air dry it. They just said room temperature. So they're not cooking it to dry it or heating it up. They're just kind of letting it sit and air dry. All right, steep 2. Cheers. flavor notes in this one starting to what I equate to like wicker basket wood. Like what a wicker basket smells like, this is what it's tasting like. So there's some woodiness in it. The texture wise, kind of gritty, and I imagine it's because of the hairs. It's kind of lingering around, affecting the smoothness, so it's got kind of a gritty aftertaste or after texture. And just kind of a light wood flavor. Trying to think if there's sweetness to it. I'm not getting too much sweetness right now. But there is some of the bread dough notes still. Very light on the dry aroma there. Let that heat back up. Get ready for steep 3. And let's do 30 seconds on this one. Price-wise, it's pretty affordable. It comes in at 16 cents a gram, so $4.54 an ounce. So for a 100 milliliter session, it would be 80 cents. So because I'm doubling that, it's about $1.60 for this session. Especially for the amount of tea I'll get, because this will go for a good 8+ steeps. There's 30 seconds. Pretty good bang for your buck, especially if you're into that organic niche, if the organic is the selling point for you. This was the only one I was able to find that at least was called Moonlight White on their website, so it's not per se that I sought out that it was organic, but it is available if that's important to you. So it's a lot more of the tart notes coming out in the aroma there. It's also very dark on the liquor. Look how dark that's getting. Well, I don't want to say very dark as if it's like a black tea or a Pu'er, but there's dark compared to what you would expect or what I would have expected for a white, and it's because there's oxidation in these leaves, so it's bringing that out. Should have got a bigger mason jar, which I will eventually do. Let's kind of cool this off. I tried searching on as many websites as I could for like a 100 milliliter glass teapot, and I just can't find something that small. So it's just 200 mil it is. I think I found one. Well, no, that one was even. This is 200 to the neck. The next smallest I could find was 200 mils to the brim. That's kind of about as small as I'll get. All right, steep 3. Cheers. Notes, it could be bitterness, but it's starting to kind of, it's not puckering like astringency. But there is a dryness, there is very light bitterness coming out. And then just kind of the same notes as before. Kind of sweet wicker basket and bread dough. Definitely not as nuanced with the white teas yet. Only my second one so far, but Nothing that's off-putting to me, at least. No, it's very pleasant. These still have a lot of opening up to do. So that was steep 3. Let's do steep 4. I'm gonna add 10 seconds to this. Let's do a 40-second steep on this one. Make sure it's all staying in there. Some of the leaves are still just kind of floating. They haven't got wet yet. Is filling that pot up as they rehydrate. Okay. Just trying to cool it off. Get nice and high. Because I guess the stereotypes of tea drinkers where some of them just like it boiling hot as it goes into their throat. I like to taste it. I don't want to be burned, so I cool it off. I brew it at the hot temperature and then drink it at drinkable temperature. Nothing new on the aroma. Still a lot of tart and bread dough. But not a sourdough. That's a very different note. So just tartness and bread dough. Anyway. Still very dark, a lot of good color in there. Less hairs though. So it's getting more and more well, it's always been transparent, but less hair coming out. So they've started to boil off in the first few steeps. Cool this down. Do it one more time. Look how nice and bubbly it is. So there's texture. There is a little bit of thickness, and I think it's part of the hairs. The hairs are what help. I'm not sure on the science of that, what creates the foam. What allows them to stay suspended for so long. Anyway, steep 4. Cheers. Very nice flavor. About the same as the last steep. Very approachable, I would say. Some people don't like the bitterness of black teas, so this would be very good if you don't like bitterness. If you don't like grassiness of green teas, there's not very much grassy. I'm not getting grassy. Ooh, one thing, as I inhale, letting the air go over my tongue, there's a cooling sensation starting to happen, some tingliness. And part of me wonders if the hairs are kind of puncturing my tongue and creating that, so like irritating it, creating an irritation effect is part of the tingling. Maybe. All right, very nice. Okay, so I'm gonna drink the rest off camera just because I'm not quite sure how long this will go. When I did a practice session by myself and it lasted 8 steeps, but then when I did it with my tea group and little friends that came, it was like 13 or 14 steeps. It went way longer than expected. So I will just drink, and I think part of it, so my background is, well, currently I'm working tech support, but I worked 12 years in the food industry, went to school in culinary arts, And one of the things you learn that as you increase a recipe, that sometimes you have to adjust some of the ingredients. They don't always increase nicely, or at the same rate. So we did it was a 500 milliliter pot, so put in 25 grams of leaf, and that could have led into why it lasted so long. So it might be good in a small amount to do 5 grams per 100 mil, but in a bigger amount, maybe you don't need 5 grams. That was something that, as I'm experimenting and exploring tea, just something that I learned during that one, the drastic 1.5, almost 2 times the amount of tea steeps I was able to get, even though the ratio was about the same. It was kind of interesting to see that. Anyway, I'll go ahead and just keep drinking these, and I'll be back shortly once I kind of feel like we're at the end. And I'll also tag that kind of as the too long didn't read or didn't watch part. Anyway, we'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. Had quite the session. Had to upgrade to a bigger mason jar for all the steeps. So I pushed it for 12 steeps, and that last one was pretty bland, so I'd say kind of 11 to 12 is the stopping point for what this can do, which is killer deal. I mean, for $1.60 worth of leaves and getting 1.5 liters of tea out of it, pretty good deal out of that. So let's drink the blend. So total of 12 steeps all mixed together, what the overall impressions are for this tea. What impressed me was even through those later steeps, this color maintained itself. It stayed really dark throughout the steeps. All right, cheers. So overall, there's like this hint of sweetness without it being sugary sweet. So I'm not sure how to describe that, but there's like this sweet something. But then drinking this encore, there's still some of the bread dough. Bread dough and wood. Like wicker basket or bamboo wood is kind of the main notes I get. Sensations, starting around steep 5, it just was dry. And even in this mixture, this blend of all the steeps, there's a distinct dryness to this tea. The bitterness is not too much there. It's present, but it's not insane at all. It's very light bitterness. And it's mostly because the dryness is what I'm experiencing. Yeah, bread dough is kind of the overall arching, bread dough and bamboo or wicker basket wood, kind of the overarching flavor notes of this. Well, all right, well, thank you for joining me this session while we drink a Moonlight White from Yunnan Sourcing. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me.